27,000 games. Oh, there we go. Phil Hunter. Time to play d4. Pill Hunter. Not Phil, Pill. Queen's Gambit declined. Okay. I could play bishop g5 here, but I don't really know that variation all that well. So I'm going to stick with my usual e3. He goes for some kind of Tartakover system. Akaganov, Bondarevsky, Tartakover. Although I think that's usually in response to bishop g5, but it's the same idea, putting the bishop here, looking at the center. It's a solid setup for black. Quite a reasonable way to play. Yeah, maybe he's just now noticing I didn't play the usual bishop to g5. So I can take the pawn here and see how he takes back. With the pawn, yeah, it's pretty typical. It's always seemed funny to me, but they do that. And then sometimes they will still put the bishop on b7. Keeps a lot of pressure on the center, makes it hard for me to expand with the e-pawn, for example. But I think I'll keep the center closed and maneuver around. Black can turn this into a hanging pawn position by playing with c5. Or, yeah, he can change tack as he did and go bishop g4. I'll ignore that for a moment. I can always break the pen by dropping the bishop back. Now let's kick that bishop and make it decide if it wants to keep the pin or not. He does. So, yeah, I think my development will be too awkward if I don't break the pin. So let's go ahead and do that immediately. So knight to e5 is the move I want to play next, and that will force a trade of this bishop. If it drops back, my knight will take it, or it will take here more likely. And I'll be left with this dark squared bishop, which I'll maneuver to try and get it into the game. My queen will be here. Push these pawns forward on the queen side, I think. Put my rooks on the... Put one rook at least on the c file. Maybe push the b pawn forward here. What is black's plan? Now that his bishop is over here, I'm not quite sure. But he could just develop. That's pretty normal. Develop the knight. That would make me think twice about playing knight e5 because he might take the knight instead of taking my bishop. But if he takes my knight, I could take his bishop. Let's see, yeah, so either knight d7 or knight c6 look normal. Knight e5, bishop takes bishop, queen takes, then knight takes knight, pawn takes. Then he has to move this knight back. Probably to d7, attacking my pawn, and then I could play f5, defending it. And I would have an extra pawn on the king side. He would have an extra pawn in the center. This pawn would be hanging, actually. Let's go ahead and try this. Is there actually, I should think if there's a better move here. There are other ways to proceed here, but I liked the variation I calculated, so let's go ahead and play it. He doesn't, of course, have to take my knight. But yeah, knight takes knight, pawn takes knight. And then this knight, if it goes back, can't go here, attacking the pawn. If it goes back here to attack my pawn. I could just take his d-pawn right away because his knight is blocking the queen's view of the d-pawn, and that hits his bishop. It's a good pawn to get rid of, and then I could push the d-pawn forward and my bishop could come out on this side. He went for that. Okay, let's see where he puts the knight. I could put the knight here. Does not have to take it back to d7. But he does, yeah. So that's interesting. Yeah, because knight to e4 might have been a better move. Yeah, I think I want to take this pawn. Rather than play f4 defending my pawn, just take his pawn right away. If he takes my pawn, which I think he has to, then I can play e4 defending my knight. I've got a nice pawn in the center. I'm hitting his bishop. Got a nice knight in the center. And I've opened up a line for my bishop. So I'm not eager to trade that knight off. I'll wait till he kicks it or something. I could develop my bishop with tempo. And bring a rook to the c file. That would be ideal for me, I think. So I think his best move here is c6, just kicking my knight away immediately and not letting me get a chance to play bishop f4 and rook to c1. So he developed his bishop. Okay, he saved the bishop, and now bishop f4 is not with tempo. So let's go to d3 with the bishop. I still want to get in rook c1, even though he's defended his c-pawn here. Now that I've covered this diagonal, I can play... I could have played f4, pawn to f4 anyway, but I liked the idea of covering this diagonal first before I open it up. There was no... Yeah, his bishop could have come there with check, I guess. Yeah, before I push the f-pawn, though, I think I'd like to get the rook on the c-file. That way, his bishop won't be coming to c5. If he plays c6 now, I could bring my knight to f4. I could drop it back to c3. Yeah, he brings his rook to the c-file. Yeah, very logical play. Let's proceed as planned. So now with the rook on the c-file, I guess knight to f4 is making more sense, although I want to play pawn to f4 too. Can't have two pieces on the same square. The Pauli exclusion principle applied to chess. Yeah, he's playing logically, centralizing his rooks. So I could bring a rook to the center, the other rook to the center. That's a nice developing move. I could play c or f4 immediately. I like f4 better. Let's get this action going. And then this rook maybe is useful right where it is. This is well defended. This pawn here, however, is not. So let's kick that bishop back. Yeah, I wonder if he can actually take that pawn because bishop takes pawn, leaves my knight hanging. Bishop takes pawn, pawn takes bishop, queen takes knight. Do I have something good there? I mean, he's just won a pawn, and my pawn is hanging in that line. Yeah, played that too quick, but my pawn was hanging before that, so maybe the whole sequence was bad. That's not so good. Unless he expects to win my bishop here. Just drop back. I wanted to chase his bishop away and take on c7. That was my plan. Yeah, I think he miscalculated something there. I think he was planning to get a piece back. But yeah, I can defend. I mean, he can add pressure by putting the queen there, but I can defend with the knight. And then I can unpin with queen to, okay, let's unpin right away. That's what I want to do. So I'm just going to play bishop takes knight, and I will tolerate that passed pawn there. Where's my knight going, though? I mean, I'll play bishop takes bishop. He'll play pawn takes bishop. And I've got to move my knight here, I guess. Maybe I shouldn't be in such a hurry to take the bishop. Maybe I should find a place for my knight first. Yeah, he just drops back. Okay, we'll start with putting the rook on the open file with tempo. It'd be nice to get my knight to d5 here, it looks like. Although I have to remember, yeah. So knight d5, he can pin my knight, and then I go back. So maybe I should. Okay, well, I mean, knight d5 also defended the bishop, right? So if I'm not going to defend the bishop, I should put it somewhere else. Okay, well, let's take there. And what now? Get my rook off the back rank. How about if I put my rook here opposite his queen? Any kind of exchange should be in my favor. He is getting a pawn, though, isn't he, if he just brings the rook? Oh, no. The rook can't go. He ran out of time, yeah. The rook can't go to the second rank here because the bishop is covering that square. He could check. Yeah, I think I'm just better in the endgame. Anyway, we will check this one out in the postmortem, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.